Now, if you want to be wise, according to the book of Proverbs, in the area of money and finances and wealth and possession, you need to know the power of money, you need to know the reasons for the power of money, and you need to know how to break the power and use the power of money in your life. First of all, Proverbs recognizes the power of money by talking about how good a thing it is. The book talks about wealth creation in the most positive possible terms. Lazy hands make a man poor, but diligent hands bring wealth. He who gathers crops in summer is wise. He who sleeps during harvest time is disgraceful. The blessing of the Lord brings wealth. Over and over again, the book of Proverbs connects hard work, ingenuity, insight, creativity, self-control, and discipline with prospering materially, prospering economically. And there's lots and lots and lots of statements in that regard. The Bible not only respects the power of money because of its inherent goodness, but it also respects the power of money because money has an incredible spiritual danger attached to it. It's an incredibly dangerous spiritual power. The Lord abhors dishonest scales, but accurate weights are his delight. Proverbs says, money has the power to corrupt your integrity. You might be a person of great integrity and maybe a person of great honesty and character, but in the presence of a lot of money, it's amazing how many people who had integrity lose it. You know what dishonest scales was pretty simple. If you were selling grain, the buyer knew how much grain by the scales. And of course, if the seller falsely labeled some of the weights, it was a way of making sure the customer essentially paid for more grain than he or she was really getting. This is deceptive business practices. Money has the power to corrupt our integrity. When you are indulging in business practices that hide from either customers or investors information that they would want to have, you have been corrupted by the power of money. Your integrity, you might have once had it, but it's gone now. Secondly, it has the power to magnify self-absorption to the detriment of the social fabric and community. People curse the man who hoards grain, but blessing crowns him who is willing to sell. This person is not being dishonest, he's being ruthless. The situation is a food scarcity. And in the time of food scarcity, this man has grain, but he's holding on to it. He's not selling it in order to drive the price up so that he can make a much greater profit, even though there's people who are hungry, even though he's not doing anything illegal. What does it say? It's cursed. In the Bible, to be cursed means spiritual, emotional, moral, physical disintegration. Proverbs condemns business that has only the bottom line of personal profit and not also an equally important, the common good, the good of the community. The righteous, according to the book of Proverbs, are those who value community as a bottom line in production as well as personal profit. The wages of the righteous bring them life, the income of the wicked bring them punishment. The righteous are the people who the more money they make, the more life comes from them. Because first of all, they understand their money as belonging to the community, not just to themselves. They make their money in such a way that builds up the community, and they only consume what they have in such a way that it benefits the community. They don't spend it all on themselves, whereas the unrighteous are the people who make it for themselves and they spend it on themselves. It has the power to make you think that's normal. It has the power to destroy your individual integrity, it has the power to destroy community. Thirdly, it has the power to distract you from what's really important. Wealth is worthless in the day of wrath, which is Judgment Day. And here's what this means. It's simple, but it's quite important. You know what a Judgment Day question is? Here's a Judgment Day question. What is my life amounting to? What am I really doing with my life? What difference am I making in the world? Who am I really helping? What contribution am I making? Wealth blinds you to Judgment Day questions. Wealth pulls you, sucks you into a frantic cycle, a frantic life of consumption. It goes like this. I've earned more, so I'm going to spend more. Now I have to keep earning more, but then after a while I have to earn more because I'm spending more to keep up with my level of spending, and on and on and on it goes. All the time you feel like I just don't have enough to keep up. The Bible says wealth definitely makes you busy. It makes you much busier than you should be, and makes you think you have far less with which to do good in the world. So it distracts you from the big things of life. And lastly, it makes you proud. It destroys your self-knowledge. It makes you overconfident. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, who is the Lord? Or I may become poor and steal and so dishonor the name of my God. Now that term, who is the Lord, is what Pharaoh said to Moses. Pharaoh is someone who says, I don't need God. Who's the Lord? And there's nothing like economic success to make you feel overconfident. The more money you make and the more successful you are, the more you think you got it because you were so smart and so disciplined. And what that means is you become overconfident in your own instincts, in your own judgment. You don't listen to other people. To see a man humble under prosperity is the greatest rarity in the world. Proverbs and the Bible's understanding of money does not fit into any current worldly, conventional, economic way of thinking. The Bible's understanding of money is such that it does not fit into either socialism or capitalism or any view of economics in between that we've got in the world today. Human beings underestimate the actual power and might of money. They don't understand what a spiritual power is, but the Bible does. What are the reasons for this power? This ability to puff up, this ability to destroy the social fabric, this ability to destroy your integrity and your character, this ability to make you way too self-confident, destroy your self-knowledge, this ability to distract you from what's really important in life. Where does it get this power? What are the reasons? And the answer is verse 15. The wealth of the rich is their fortified city. The poverty is the ruin of the poor. And it doesn't just say that the wealthy, the rich, live in the city. It says the wealth of the rich is their city. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and are safe. And then verse 11, the wealth of the rich is their fortified city. They imagine it an unscalable wall. What the book of Proverbs is saying is, and this is the great danger, wealth is their significance and security instead of God. There's no more plausible way to feel good about yourself and to feel secure and in control than wealth. It is the alternative to God, and it has enormous spiritual power. In other words, wealth doesn't just make you happier in some general way. It gives you your identity. It gives you your security. In other words, some people mainly look to wealth for their significance, and other people mainly look to wealth for their security. You feel important because of the things the clothes you wear, because of the places you live, because of the places you eat, because of the people you know. It's not just you feel important. You don't just look at other people and think they're below me economically. You look at other people and you think they're below me. When you move to a bigger house, a better neighborhood, when you move up economically, you don't just feel I have a better economic life. You feel I'm better. Middle-class people, we pity the poor. Oh, they're so poor. When you actually find yourself on a bus with a pile of them, you just sit there and you roll your eyes and you grit your teeth and you say, how obnoxious. You know what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. You feel better than they are. You feel like you're better. You feel superior to them. We kid ourselves about how much we need. We're in denial, about how much we're spending on ourselves is because it's how we feel significant. See, people who look to their money for their significance tend to spend a lot more money. But those of you who look to money for your security are somewhat different. Some people say, I have money, so I'm important. But other people deep in their heart say, I have money, so I'm safe. I've got some control. I've got money in the bank. I've got money in investments. You're a scared person, and yet with money you're overcoming your fear. But money is worthless in the day of wrath. Do you think money can stop death? Do you think money can stop tragedy? Do you think money can stop heartache? Do you think money can stop the breaking up of relationships? It can't do that. It's not God. Only God can do that. And it doesn't make you into God. But that's the reason for the power of money. Because money, more than anything else in this world, offers to you significance and security apart from God. How then do we break the power of money over us and use the money then properly? Here's how. Number one, assume you're somewhat in denial. The Lord abhors dishonest scales. You know what that literally says? Dishonest scales are an abomination to the Lord. Now that is incredibly strong language, and it's meant to be shocking because the word abomination is usually used for sexual sin. It's saying you could be squeaky clean sexually, absolutely moral and pure sexually, but if you love money too much, God is as offended by you and your life as by the life of someone who is cheating on his or her spouse. If this is true, that materialism is as offensive as sexual wrongdoing, then it must be true that materialism is more spiritually dangerous than sexual wrongdoing. Jesus was always running around, constantly saying, watch out for greed, watch out for materialism, watch out for all forms of materialism. He says that in Luke chapter 12 and other places. Watch out for materialism. He has never said, watch out for adultery. You know why? Because when you're doing adultery, you know you're doing adultery. That's why he didn't have to say, watch out for adultery. Why does he say, watch out for greed? Nobody who's doing materialism, nobody who's into greed, nobody who's completely given in to the power of money, and therefore, by holding on to your money, by holding on and spending it on yourself and holding on to yourself, you are creating death in the world. And nobody who's doing that thinks they're guilty of it. Americans are always saying stuff like this. I hardly can make ends meet. I can't possibly live any more simply than I'm living. I really don't have that much money to give away. I really need all this stuff. I really need all this stuff. I really need all this stuff. The rest of the world knows better. They look at how we live. They look at the level how we live, and they say, you're kidding? The mark of being addicted to money is that you confuse needs and wants. Everything you want, you think is a need. Okay, so the first thing you want to do to break the power of money is assume you're somewhat in denial, and at least somewhat. And the second thing you have to do is you have to grasp the scattering principle. There is one who scatters, yet increases more. There is one who withholds more than is right, but it leads to poverty. Now that is a paradox. It's supposed to be a paradox. He who scatters, gathers. And he who gathers, scatters. Proverbs. It's saying the person who tries to increase decreases, and the person who's willing to decrease increases. Scattering gathers. Gathering scatters. In agriculture, you scatter your seed, and the more you scatter, the more you gather. The more you sow, the more you reap. If you would hold on to your seed and say, oh no, I can't spare any seed, you'll starve. But if you're willing to scatter your seed and give it all away, you'll gather. By the way, when you gather, it comes back in a better form. Now, here's what the book of Proverbs is saying. You are an addict to money. You are blind unless you see that your wealth is the same thing as seed. That the only way for you to turn your wealth into real riches is by giving it away. That the more you give it away, the more you will increase in real wealth. And if you don't see that, if that makes no sense to you, or if you know it intellectually but you just can't do it, you are an addict. If you love money too much, that leads to overwork, overconfidence, ethical shortcuts, loss of community. All of those things in the long run will mean you will be making stupider and stupider economic decisions. The more you can break the power of money in your life, the more likely in the long run you are to make smart economic decisions. St. Paul quotes the Old Testament statement about gathering and scattering in 2 Corinthians 8. He doesn't go after their emotions, and he doesn't go after their wills. He goes after their hearts. And this is what he says. I want you to give, but I'm not commanding you, he says. Man, if you give in response to a command, you're still gathering. You're still saying, well, if I do it, then maybe God will help me, or something else will go on, or I'll feel like I'm a better person, and then I'll feel better. No, listen. You know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sakes he became poor, so that you, through his poverty, might become rich. And then he says, who sows sparingly will reap sparingly, who sows generously will reap generously. As it is written, he has scattered abroad his gifts to the poor, and his righteousness endures forever. Jesus Christ on the cross was literally broken to pieces. On the cross, he was distributed. He was scattered. Why? To gather us. Unless you see the cross as the ultimate scattering to gather, the ultimate act of generosity, the ultimate place of wealth distribution, the ultimate place of becoming poor in order to get real riches. Until you see what he has done for you, until you are melted by that, you will never break the power of money over your life. And here's the reason why. The cross, the ultimate act of generosity, is your ultimate security, right? Do you believe in the cross? If you believe in the cross, then you know God cares for you. And that's a security money can't give you. But if you believe in the cross, that's a significance money can't give you. Why would Jesus Christ have given up heaven? Why would Jesus Christ have given up his glory? Why would Jesus Christ have given up all the treasure he had? Because you and I were more valuable to him than that. Until that becomes your significance and security, you will not be free from the power of money. If you treasure anything else in your life, if you make anything but Jesus your ultimate treasure, it will drive you, it will control you, you will feel like I've got to have it, it will demand that you die for it. But Jesus Christ is the only treasure that died for you, died to get you. And until that happens, until you see that, to the degree that you see that, your heart will be restructured in its motivation, its identity, its approach to the world, and you will want to scatter. You will turn your money into real wealth. When you give it to the poor, you'll see their lives being repaired. When you give it to ministry, you'll see people literally changing forever, getting joy forever, and then you'll finally have the wealth. But you don't do it in order to get wealthy. You don't do it to feel better about yourself. That's non-gospel stuff. To the degree you bring the gospel into the realm of your money and your economics, to that degree you'll have the freedom we're talking about. There is one who scatters yet increases more, and there's one who withholds more than is right, but it leads to poverty. Now what's it? Withholds more than is right. See, here's a stingy person who's not giving away as much as required. Now, what would be required? Well, in the Bible, 10%. Everywhere through the Bible, it says if you're not giving away at least 10% of your income to charity, to ministry, every year, then you are disobeying God's rule for generosity. Jesus didn't save you by tithing his glory, and you live by his giving of everything. Jesus' cross means sacrificial giving. Don't you dare think that you're being wise about money if you only tithe, if it's not making a measurable difference in the way in which you live, if it's not making a measurable sacrificial difference in the way you do things, in the way you take your vacations, in the way in which you buy your clothes, in the way in which you live. You're obeying the rule, but you haven't brought a cross into your economic life, and that's wisdom.